Imagine making it through a grueling, years-long training system, surviving a highly publicized survival show broadcast to millions, officially hearing your name called as a member of YG Entertainment's first new girl group in 7 years, and then simply vanishing right before the finish line. That is exactly what happened to Ahyeon, and her sudden disappearance didn't just confuse people, it triggered one of the most chaotic pre-debut scandals K-pop had seen in years. YG Entertainment had spent months hyping up BABYMONSTER through their Last Evaluation reality show, parading 7 girls in front of cameras to prove they were worthy of inheriting the massive legacy left by Blackpink. Fans had bonded with this specific 7-member dynamic. They had watched these teenagers cry, fight for their spots, and celebrate together. So when YG dropped a bizarre, out-of-nowhere announcement in late 2023 stating that Ahyeon would not be participating in the debut due to health reasons, the internet practically broke in half. Nobody bought it. In the K-pop industry, health reasons is a notorious catch-all phrase that sets off alarm bells, and netizens immediately began to speculate about what was actually going on behind closed doors. Rumors began to swirl wildly across Korean forums like Han and international platforms like Twitter. Some claimed she had clashed with YG's notorious executive producer Yang Hyun-suk. Others whispered about a supposed attitude controversy, with anonymous accounts claiming she was difficult to manage. A particularly toxic rumor even suggested she had bullied other trainees, though absolutely zero evidence ever surfaced to back that up. The absolute silence from YG only made the hysteria worse. Fans couldn't believe that a company could bungle a debut this badly. You spend months building up a group's chemistry, selling merchandise and exclusive content featuring all 7 members, and then you just yank one out days before their first music video drops? The sheer incompetence of it was staggering to watch in real time. And then came the debut itself, which only poured gasoline on the fire. BABYMONSTER stepped onto the stage as a 6-member lineup, dropping Batter Up into an overwhelmingly toxic atmosphere. Instead of focusing on the actual song, the entire conversation was dominated by Ahyeon's ghost. But Batter Up brought its own entirely separate set of problems that exposed YG's deeply flawed understanding of the current K-pop landscape. The song was immediately dragged by Korean netizens and international fans alike for sounding outdated, like a rejected 2NE1 B-side from 2014. But the biggest, most visceral backlash was directed at the line distribution. Listeners couldn't believe their ears when they realized that 3 of the 6 girls, Rami, Rora, and Chiquita, were essentially reduced to backup dancers with maybe 5 seconds of vocal time combined. Ruka, Asa, and Farida carried the entire 3-minute track. This sparked a massive debate about YG's chronic inability to promote vocalists equally, a problem that had plagued Blackpink for years. Fans were furious. Why did YG debut these girls if they weren't going to let them sing? The outrage got so intense that fans actually started trending hashtags demanding better line distribution, a rare level of direct criticism aimed at a company by its own fandom on debut day. It felt like YG had taken these incredibly talented kids, shoved them into a rusty hip-hop mold, and told them to figure it out. The critics weren't just angry, they were disappointed. People wanted to root for them, but YG made it incredibly difficult by sticking to a formula that felt stale and deeply unfair to its own artists. Just when the dust from the Batter Up mess started to settle, YG pulled a move that can only be described as industry whiplash. In February 2024, they announced that Ahyeon was returning. No deep explanation, no real apology for the mess they caused, just a casual "she's back" announcement that treated the fandom like their memory could just be wiped clean. The company clearly expected applause. What they got instead was a fractured fan base and a tidal wave of skepticism. While international fans largely celebrated her return, Korean netizens were incredibly vocal about their distrust, demanding to know the real reason she had left in the first place. YG's arrogant assumption that fans would just blindly accept this without any transparency was a massive miscalculation. It made the company look disorganized and manipulative, treating their idols like puzzle pieces that could be easily removed and snapped back into place whenever it suited their bottom line. When Sheesh dropped in April 2024 with the official 7-member lineup, the song was undeniably a commercial upgrade from their debut, and Ahyeon's vocals did add the missing punch everyone had expected. But the backlash followed them right to the charts, because Sheesh was an instant smash, hitting the top 10 on South Korea's Circle Digital chart and moving over 400,000 copies in a week. The internet did what it always does when a highly anticipated YG group achieves sudden, massive numbers. They accused the company of chart manipulation, or sajaegi. If you spend any time in K-pop spaces, you know that sajaegi accusations are basically a badge of honor for for top-tier groups, but the sheer volume of hate BABYMONSTER received was staggering. Rival fandoms dissected their streaming patterns, their album sales, and their YouTube views with a level of obsessive paranoia that was genuinely exhausting to witness. They argued that no rookie group, especially one coming off a messy, controversial pre-debut period, could naturally pull those kinds of numbers without label interference. The irony here was completely lost on the accusers. For years, K-pop fans had complained that YG was failing, that they had lost their touch, and that their new groups would flop. Yet the second BABYMONSTER actually succeeded. The narrative instantly shifted to they must be cheating. YG's own history of digital chart controversies in the past made them an easy target, and the company's terrible communication style meant they did a horrible job of defending their own artists against the allegations. The girls were caught in a catch-22, punished by the public whether they failed or succeeded. As 2024 progressed and the group released their first full studio album, Drip, a completely different, much more insidious type of controversy started to bubble up from the international fan base. K-pop has been having a long, painful reckoning with cultural appropriation, and BABYMONSTER's Drip era stepped right into the crosshairs. The title track, along with side tracks like Click Clack, leaned heavily into a bold, hip-hop swagger that felt deeply tone-deaf coming from a group of mostly teenage girls. International fans were quick to point out the heavy use of AAVE, or African American Vernacular English, in the lyrics and the group's ad-libs. Fans couldn't believe that in 2024, a major entertainment company was still letting its young idols casually throw around dialect and slang that doesn't belong to them for the sake of sounding edgy or swag. The styling didn't help either. Critics argued that YG was forcing these kids into a hyper-masculine, aggressive hip-hop aesthetic that felt entirely artificial, highlighting the uncomfortable reality of young Asian teenagers being marketed as authentic American hip-hop artists. It's an issue YG has been criticized for since their inception, but the scrutiny is much harsher now. Social media buzz was brutal, with users calling out the cringe factor of watching girls who were literally in high school trying to project this hardened, streetwise persona. It raised a very valid, very uncomfortable question about who is actually making these creative decisions. Are the girls choosing to speak and dress this way, or is this just Yang Yeon-suk's dated vision of what cool looks like being forced onto a new generation?